Kislev, Hemshech Samech Vav, page Fei Het.
So, I just want to tell you guys on myself that I hope it'll be mechaven to sort of close our cow. Listen, if you don't mind, I don't want you turning up the room when I'm already here to teach the class, okay? It's that once upon a time in Tomcha Tamimim, the Bochum were never even asking to talk about food. They were never even asking to discuss it, let alone make a hassle. Maybe somebody take that down. As it is, we have hardly any air in here. When you walk in here, it's very stuffy. Thanks. So I remember when I first came to Yeshiva, in the year Toshin Korbeis, Yeshiva was down in Lud, it wasn't here. It came over shortly after that. Yeshiva moved over here into Kwachabak. And there was only that building over there at that time, and only 2 stories, not the third story. It's, what they used to eat in the kitchen in Lud was in like old Arab buildings that they'd driven the Arabs out of. I don't know how one trying to bring all the Arab, but tell me, let's not talk about that. It's, they drove the Arabs out, and these were like old Arab buildings. That's where the Zal was. And the kitchen was also like a sort of hemshech to that sort of building where the Zal was. And the Bochum used to go in there and eat the meals. So there was some of the elder Bochum, actually one of them, that he was what they call an elder Bocha. He was already from the grown-up ones. He was already an adult, considered to the others. He later became a Rosh Yeshiva. He became a Samech Vav. As he passed away rather tragically a few years ago. Yeah. So he was there, and a few of the other Bochum. There was a couple of big Bochum from America that they were called the Shluchim. They were really very big. Bochum. I knew 2 of them very well. And they were also at this table. And this Zelig Feldman, he was a big London niggler. And the whole time he used to, while they were eating, he was shooting all sorts of rashbars and other Pirushim on the Gemara and everything. He just saw this the whole time. And the other guys are trying to eat something, and he's the whole time, but nobody ever sort of looked at the food, what it really was. Nobody sort of, nobody cared. So, but due at that time, it appears it was very difficult to get things in those days. So some mothers or something must have come to them in the hill at the yeshiva or Shalom or Fry Wolf or Shalom, and they must have complained about the food. They must have said that they're not getting enough vitamins or something. I can't tell you exactly what was the problem. They sort of, they're not well enough and there's something wrong. So they decided. The cook, I remember him also. He was the cook. He was very, upset. He worked hard and put all his cooks in the box they want to eat. And I was in there complaining, and the Menel himself came in and some of the Rosh Yeshivas, and they started making a whole big, inquiry. It was what's with the food and what's going on around here, what do they have in the mornings, what do they have in the midnight. So they decided, let's go and ask the Bocher. Let's hear what they say about the food. So I remember I was there. I was sitting at the table, and this Zelig Feldman, he was there, and 2 or 3 of these American guys were there. They were big Londonian, big Bocher, and a few other Bocher were all sitting there. All of a sudden, this War comes strolling in all dressed up, and he's dressed up very specially for the occasion. He's all dressed up in his long coat. He's looking very impressive. And a couple of others, one of them a spy, and a couple of others, and the cook, and a few others, and they don't come walking in, and they say, listen, you guys, we hear that the food's not, you guys got complaints about the food, what's the story there? So a couple of these guys looked at him as if they, there was some sort of, they'd fallen down from Mars, something's not, right with these guys, they must be cooking and everything. So I said, who are you? So Zelig Feldman started off some sort of proof with him, something in the Gemara, and he started telling this, did you see them, they talking teasers, but the Rashba held under, started there standing there, and he's still pulling away, and I said, it's not derech, these men are standing here, and you have to say something. So in the end, one of the Americans, he's sort of a bit more Hamish, he pipes up and he says, excuse me, what do you guys want? He said in Hebrew, Matem Chapsiv, what is it you want? What are you looking for? So they told him, the food's not good, they have to say something. So all of a sudden, I forget which one it was, but he pipes up and he said, are you guys normal? He said, we're learning in the Rebbe's yeshiva, and this is Tomchei Tmimim Lubavitch. And he said, you're not supposed to even think about the food in Tomchei Tmimim Lubavitch. He said, let alone talk about the food, let alone make a fuss about food. Are you guys normal? I said, leave us alone. So everybody sort of took him, everybody started piping up, saying, Yod, everybody took the line. They said, Yod, he's right, how dare you, this is Tomchei Tmimim, how dare you come in and ask him, mix in the middle of a discussion and do material about the food, and there's a whole big, so I remember Rav Wolf, and they didn't know what to say, and they said, come on guys, the parents have said something, well, the parents, what do they know, what was it, what do they know anything about a yeshiva? What are you guys talking about? This is the Rebbe's yeshiva. I remember it so vividly. And in the end, they didn't know what to do. They just went away, Mamish Baboishish Party. They walked away and they left the whole thing. So I remember hearing one of them, the cook, he said to Rabbi, he said, from die Bochum we gornish nicht wissen. He said, from these Bochum we're not going to know anything. He said, we have to find out. Some other way. So it was just so, mufrach in those days that somebody would make a fuss about the food, or, tumult about the food, or anything that was, to do with the food. Often were just so into Avodas Hashem, into Ruchnism, and they'd absorbed the whole idea, what the Rebbeim put into the yeshiva about food. It's a melchas. I don't want to take the wrong line here, and I don't want to say that, we just got to feed you guys any old chicken feed or something, any old rubbish, and you just got to make the best of it. But I mean, I think there is a limit, to carrying on about the food, and particularly running. I remember in those days nobody used to hurry to go into the kitchen, so it's like whoever was the first in the kitchen was always a little bit sort of, he was like a bit ashamed, The first people, all the buckets would sort of hang around. They didn't want to be the first one to run into the kitchen. I'm telling you, I saw it happen. I saw it with my eyes. But the boiler, the bucket that were into things, they didn't sort of want to hurry, So there was always a sort of slowdown when it came to going into the kitchen. It was like sort of, you go first, now you go, you go. And nowadays it's exactly how the people stoop and carry on and bang on doors and they stop employed. It's another world. Ilum Hofuch, Legam. So I mean, once again, I don't mean anything bad, guys, and I do my best, really. Anything I can do to help you, I'll do. That it should be good in Gashmis around here. I try my best. I have a very difficult task because I can't just run around buying the things and doing it. I can only ask people to do it for me. I can't do everything. So there's a bit of a confusion about the washing machine, about the dryer. It's been draining me a cough for weeks now. I've been trying to sort the whole thing out. And all the time I get so now it's been delayed a couple of days. Going to move it over here today. We're going to move it back again. It's just like, I really can't keep up with it. I do my honest best. It's easy. You have everything in Gashmi. But I don't make a gans and an asik out of it. Some guys went to the parents, and the parents got, got on the phone, left me messages, it was a terrible situation in Kashmir, no food and nowhere to wash, and they're walking around in clothes are standing up in filth, and wasting clothes. It's selfish, come on. And then the next thing is I hear that you guys are being accused of. I think there's even been that you get over there near the lunch store and you're the first in line, and sort of, you make very sure that the guy's here that you want to get in and all this sort of stuff. Come on, really. That's not the spirit of Tonka. That's not the way. As soon as the doors open, dripping fangs, people sort of running. Come on, take it easy. I'm telling you, I saw it in my time in Tonka. These people wouldn't go in, they would sort of wait. They sort of like, you go for no, you go in. They didn't want to have anything to do with the whole ethic of eating. But what are you going to do? You have to eat, you have to be mechazik yourself. So in the end, they used to sit down and eat, So I'm not saying they didn't. They just fast. Well, there's another word. I always remember how they were sitting around pilping in this, when this big entourage, came in. They couldn't get a word in edgewise. I was just so stunned. And in the end, I remember he said to this Bacha, he said, we are learning in Tomchei Tmimim. And he said, you come a Mishach Kopfek and Essen, you drain our minds about food. So, we saw that there was Inyan from Terah, this Beklodius. We saw that was Inyan of the Terah Shebiksav. That was Be'ike Nimshach Misfiras HaChochma. The Reise Mi Chochma Nafkes. And we saw that Chochma is a Inyan from Klal. And that was the Geluchas HaRishayna, that would have been enough. Mitzad the Geluchas HaRishayna is the Chamisha Chumshik Torah, and possibly, the Aseres HaDibros, and possibly Chamisha Chumshik Torah, and Sefer Yeshua, as we saw from the Gemara in Sect and the Dorim. But he said in the Luchas HaAchraynos, then there was the Inyan for Nitoisif Lahem Hal by Divrei Torah, Medrash Halachas Vagadatis, Prote HaTorah. And we saw that the details of their Inyan was Davke to be Mavara of the world, subsequent to the whole further Yerida that occurred B'Chet Eitzah Hadash, what it's well known, the Chet Eitzah Das. I'm sorry, well, I'm right to some extent. The Chet HaEgel, I'm sorry. The Chet HaEgel, that it's well known, the Chet HaEgel and the Chet Eitzah Das are connected. And they're similar in the gravity of their effect on the whole situation and the whole Seder HaOlamus. So the whole type of Aveda altered, and the Posca Zumoso, complete Tahara, which had occurred in Neshamas Yisrael at the time of Amida Lifnei Har Sinai b'Matan Torah, well, that returned once again into the Huma and the Taharivas of the Tevorah, which occurred when said the Chet Eitzah, the Chet Eitzah Das, and all those Protim we saw that they came from the Kav Hamido, the Kav Hamido Butzina, the Kav Dunisa. So that the Kav Amida was similar to the Kav, which was Nimshach after the Tzimtzum, that the Eibishter made the Tzimtzum Harishoin, the great Tzimtzum in the original Pshitas of the Oyer, which was Meir Koidem HaTzimtzum. And after that Tzimtzum, he was Megala Mamshich a Kav, and the Kav Amido is like a further Inyan in the Kav, a form of what you might call the chitzonius of the Kav, its purpose being to measure everything and limit everything and give it all shiurim and places, harayam mitzad the hagbolas of the oilamas. And that's the touch Kav Hamido, the Kav, not just Stam Kav, because the pnimis of the Kav is very high madrigas also, but the Kav Hamido. And we saw that was connected with a light Butzina. What Butzina is a Inyan from Oyer, but Kardonisa we saw is the Inyan of Koishi. Adequate hardness, some brittleness, like we bought from the Gemara in Psachim, and again the Chitei, the Kardonisa, hard and brittle chipped pieces of wheat. We saw that was the Inyan of the Kav Hamida, on the one hand, it's light, it's oil which is made after the choshech of the tzimtzum. However, it comes in the form of a brittleness, as it were, a sharpness, its idea of being precise and limited lines in the Gilui of Torah. What we saw was really mitzad a very high madrega, and that's what we're going to see as we go along. That's the bechinas of Gvura da'atik yoimin shemelush b'moichas timur shemeidei kol hamadidos shetiya sukkah. For example, that's an example. For example, zayin tvachim u'mashuhu, that the sukkah, in order to be kosher, has to be not just pink zayin tvachim, because it might be a little bit less. In order to be sure, you have to have zayin tvachim u'mashuhu, zayin tvachim al zayin tvachim. That has to be the minimal area of the sukkah, and mashuhu, to make sure that you're not under the shiur, but you're over the shiur. Davke ukehai gavna. So the inyan from Gvura is the Atik Yoimin. It's well known that the Atik Yoimin, that's the Pnimius of Keser. And Moiches Timur, we saw, is Chochma of Arik Anpin, which is Chitainis HaKeser. That's the Madreg of Chochma. Sometimes it's called Chochma Stimur, sometimes it's called Moiches Timur, the Arik Anpin. And that's the inyan of Chochma, how it is in Keser, not Keser Sheba Chochma, no Chochma in Keser. That's the great Chiddush, that precisely in the Chochma, how it is in Arik, the Chochma, how it is in Keser, there is Meir, there appears the whole Dreiga of Atik Biatzme. What Atik is Mamish Pnimius, or ain't say Pnimius HaKeser Mamish. So he calls it the inyan for Gvura is the Atik. Now the truth of the matter is that there's really no Chesed, no Gvura in Atik. Why is he called the inyan from Gvura is the Atik Yoimin? Because the inyan from Gvura can have in itself two inyanim. The inyan from Gvura can have what we call tigboiras, a tremendous giving of power, and what we call tigboiras or atzmus, that the atzmus wants to bring himself into Gilui, and to bring himself forward, even though he's really beyond Gilui altogether. And then Gvura has in itself also the idea of, like we saw, Kavamida, the idea of Medida v'Tzimtzum. So the shoyrish of that Medida v'Tzimtzum, which occurs in the Torah, how it comes from Moiches Timur down into the Elamas, that's really from a Gvura, how it is in Atik Yoimin. Kaviyochel, in Atik Yoimin, there's a inyan of Tzimtzum, like we saw earlier, Tzimtzem Shchinosei Bein Shnei Badei Orein, that the Eibush literally forces the atzmus of his very essence into a small area. And that's a very special type of Tzimtzum. And that's what we mean here. The inyan for Gvura is the Atik Yoimin. Because Stam Gvura is not really Shaykh, as the Zohar Kodesh says in Atik, that lays smaller Bahai Atika. There's no left side in Atik. For that matter, there's no right side either. But what it means by saying lay smaller Bahai Atika, that there's no, as it were, holding back, or nothing negative. Everything is just wanting to give forth the atzmus in Atika Kadisha. So why does he use the expression Gevura Datik Yoimin? Gevura meaning Lamal Yusa, in a good way, that the atzmus has got the power to push itself forward, that's what to make itself appear, and that's what we call Tikboiras Ha'atzmus. And that's the greatness of Moiches Timur, even though that's already Chochma, as it is in Chitanius HaKeser, but it receives in itself, and it's a key to that kilo of Atik Yoimin, and the purpose of being to bring the atzmas of the Eibush Mamish, how he is in Atik, to bring him into the inyanim of Torah, that they go down, they determine the whole Matthias of how to purify and to bring about the element tachlis in the world. Or what that's the inyan for the Dinei HaTorah, most of which are already limited and detailed into all sorts of minute pratim, and that's why we began the sentence with the inyan of pratim. And those are the gevules, the Atik Yoimin, ukahai gavna, ha'amash v'kosa b'lechutei Torah diva ha'mashkil b'shor shehidimu. But that's a maimah in Shvuos in Lekutei Torah in the Drushim Shvuos. But over there the Alter Rebbe also deals at great length with the famous statement of the Gemara in the Sekta Brachas, where the Gemara says that min ha-Torah, in order to bench, it's you have to have severe. You have to eat in a way that you're fully satisfied. But Haim Hichmiro, Knesset Yisrael, Yidden Hichmiro, Achmam Ad Kabeitzav Ad Kazayis, that they Yidden took on themselves a chumrah that they bench even if they've eaten only a kabeitza and even a kazayis, they bench. Well, that is the whole big shal. How can they take on themselves to bench? You're not really mechuyev and it's a bracha and how it's shal and saying brachas, etc., etc. But nonetheless, I say of Yidden, that's what Yidden were makabel on themselves, and therefore the Gemara brings the lashon of the Birchas Kohanim that Yiso Hashem Ponov Eilecho Yosem Lecho Shalom. So was it the Indian from Yiso Hashem Ponov Eilecho that the Eibush lifts up his face and that the Eibush is prepared to overlook everything? It's like he's nice upon him. He shows favoritism to the Yidden. So the Gemara said, how can he do that? It's Yiso upon him. The Eibush doesn't show favoritism to anybody. How come Yiso Hashem Ponov Eilecho? It's almost like a stira. He says, "Eich, Omar Kodesh Baruch Eich lo yaseh panim liyisrael." How is it I cannot, show favoritism to the Yidden when I told them that only when you have a full satisfied tummy, then you bench for Haim Hichmiru al Atzmam ad Kazayis ad Kazayis v'chulu. So we see from that causes Yiso Hashem Ponav Eilecho. I mean favoritism. So the Gemara said that's the pnimius of Kesef. Not the Gemara, the Alter Rebbe of the L'chut is Mavaya, that's the union of pnimius v'atzmi, as I ain't say, but through the dikdukim and Chokm still more, then you go up through those gvuris into the shurish of all the gvuris of Atik, what that's Atik Yoim and B'atzmi. There ain't say Mamish Lamayla Mikol Ho'ilames, and that's the union of the Chokhmah is Bariro, that we'll soon see in a second. I am Mashu Kosev, that's what he writes over there, the Alter Rebbe, and he's Mavaya, that whole union B'Kitzorah of the Butzina, the Kaldonises, Nimshak, Moichas Timoa, V'zeu Kaluma is Chokhmah. Oh, that's the hidden aspects of Chokhmah, the hidden forms of Chokhmah, Kaluma is Chokhmah, Chokhmah Timoa Davke. So he says, B'chinas Oimek HaChokhmah, the Moichas he said that is the profundity of Chokhmah, not Chokhmah Datzilas, but that's what we call Chokhmah Geluya. Others are Chokhmah how it's Mizkala in Olam Atzilas, it's a Bereshus Agilui in all the elements. He said, no, Talum is Chokhmah Stimua, because Stimus hidden from the Makablim, how it is in the union of Arikampin and Keser. So he said, Valder, this is similar to another klal that we find, similar to this. Divrei Seifrim. Dalet Samach means Divrei Seifrim. In other words, dinim of the Rabbanon, Gezeres of the Rabbanon. Divrei Seifrim shasher sham mibchinas Seifer shalamayla mi Seifer. K'mashu Kosev L'chut Torah Divrei Amashku Shchoira Ani Drush Beis Drush Habeis. Because there's two drushim in Shir Shirim on the pasuk Shchoira Ani V'Nav is in the second drush that brings us the Alter Rebbe. Now, what does he mean by that? Why he goes over there, the Alter Rebbe, why the Chachamim called Seifrim, Divrei Sofrim. So he says that the Sefer Torah is called a Sefer. The Torah K'moshehu is called a Sefer. But who writes the Sefer Torah? A Sofer, yes, a Sofer. So the point is that the Sofer is higher than the Sefer. And that's what when he brings the famous Sefer Yetzirah. What the Sefer Yetzirah says that the Gimel Dvorim Chachak HaKadosh Baruch Hu Esei Lomei Besofer Ubesipur. They state that. So he teaches over that a Sefer is the Makir of Chokhmah. This is the Makir of Chokhmah, which is Torah with Sefer. Sipur is already in from Malchus. That's how Torah goes down into Elamis Biyah and becomes Miskala into the Yeridus or Elamis. Sefer is the Mokir in Chochmas Timur of the Gila of the Sefer Torah. In other words, in Torah Gufa, that's Talumis HaSefer. Talumis HaTorah, and that's the union from Divrei Sofrim, and therefore the Chachomim, they have the ability to go up into Talumis Chachom. They're Gezeidas, they're Inyonim, they were Geizim, or they were Mamshich, or Megale, or they come from the Madriga of Sefer Shalamalami. Sefer, it's the same meaning from Gevura is the Atik, Yoimin, that's the Inin of Pnimis HaKesed, how it's Mizkale and Mamshich itself into Moichas Timur. And therefore, the Gemara said over there in Nedarim and so on, that was the union from Reiv Chochma. Ki Reiv Chochma, Reiv Kas. So we brought the Pasik, and Rashi brings over that that's a tilcha that came about through all the extra learning in Torah. That's called Reiv Chochma, or in the Pasik, which we bring over there from Ioiv, it's called Talumis Chochma. Yaget Locho, Talumis Chochma, Kiflaim Latu. So we see then that there's a level in Torah which is higher than the actual Torah, how it's Mizkala, Afilu in the Sefer Torah, Afilu in Torah Shabbat, Tiksav, and that's called the union from Sefer, Shalamayla mi Sefer, and that's the Madriga, the Chachomim, that they were able, through their union, we'll see in a minute, their beetle to the Kavona Elyena, their power to be Mavara and prepare the world for the Gilui of Elakus, which will be Bisman HaMoshiach, then their Inyan is Seifrim, their Lamaila Mi, the actual Torah itself, it's Miskala from Chokm Ilah. He said, all this is because we're now faced with a mixture and a challenge which came about, first of all, through the Chet Eitz Hadas, and then the Chet of Ha'egel brought about and was re-megala this whole union of the Chet Eitz Hadas, as we pointed out earlier in the Shir, that the Chet Ha'egel was like a further continuation and a further serious development in the union of Helen Ve'ester, I feel compared to the Chet Eitz Hadas. And therefore the same basic issue that they came about through the Chet Eitz Hadas, a confusion between Teiv or Ra, that the whole world had a Yerida into the Iskabris of the Clippers, and therefore there has to be a very high Madrega, has to be Miskale in order to assist and help the union of the purification of the world. And that's this union, Talumis Chokma Seifrim. Ki Shoirish HaBirurim, because the shurish of the birurim, he didn't mean the shurish of that which brought about the necessity for birurim, but the shurish of the koyach of birurim, as who mipfinas chokmas timua davke. Now chokmas timua and moichas timua are the same madrega. The masha omru b'chokma is bariru hainu mipfinas chokmas timua davke. Akamasha kasu b'geras hakedesh dibur hamaschil lomanismucha. But it's well known that the Zohar Kodesh, it's brought down in the Zohar Kodesh and in the Sifrei Kabbalah B'chal in several places, but they say that the principal birur, the power to be mavara, the mixture of Teiv or Ra, to be Maila the Tov and Deicha the Ra, well, that comes from Chochma. The koyach of that is from Chochma. So the simple beer from them is because Chacham is in from Koyach Ma, Beetle. You can only, if you're butter and your whole thing is only to carry out the Kavanah of the Eibishter, you're not looking for yourself in the Inyanim, but therefore you find the right way, you find a way to separate off the Ra and to be moitzed the Teiv, and you're devoted to find the Teiv, Hamiula B'kol Inyan. If you're given away in a form of self-nullification to the emissary, Kavana v'chulei v'deshadini from Stam, the Chochma is buried. Comes again, the Alter Rebbe over there in Tanya, in that famous part we learned, not all that Torah we learned, go in the Chittas at the end of the Geras HaKodesh, just before the beginning of Kuntus Achri, of Pharaoh, the Alter Rebbe brings over there. That's a famous little letter that he wrote it's quote down over there that he wrote to the Levitza Badicheva to be Menachem him on the stalkers of his son. He lost his son and passed away. And the Alter Rebbe brings down over the long Nishmacha. For Stalkers Miriam in the Torah, we find it's written in Miriam in passed away, and then immediately after it's written it's written quite in the dinner of Paradum, and then immediately after it's written the Petira of Miriam. I found a famous minor Chazal, but it asked why was it that those two were put together. Rashi brings it down also. So the Alter Rebbe's got a whole little Igeris, especially Igeris of Tanchumin that he wrote to Rabbi Levitza Badicheva about that Indian. Over there, the Alter Rebbe says that the emissaire power to be Mavarer is not from Chokhmah Iloah, and when they said in many places B'Chokhmah is Bariru, they really meant B'Chokhmah Stimoah. Now it's a very interesting pshat, and it occurs in 1 or 2 places from our Rabbeim that they say the real pirush of Chokhmah is Bariru means Chokhmah Sheba Kesa Moicha Stimoah, how it's Mekabel the Gevulis of Atikyomen with the ganze Ariches. Davki, that is the power to be Mavarer and to clear up the whole confusion which occurred in the world mitzad the Cheta Eitzad Adam B'Ike now in here the Cheta Ego. That's what the Alter Rebbe is masber over there in that Igeros HaKodesh. V'zehu sha'ach Cheta Ego, and that's why I find that precisely after the Cheta Ego niten lehem harbi Torah. In other words, that the whole it was like a second Matan Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu first received the Torah, then it was Rachmani Nitzlan. While he was on the mountain, it was a Cheta Ego, and then he came down, he went up, came down again, and he went up, and then he received the Luchos Achreinos, and he brought them down on Yom Mocher Yom Kippurim. He received them on Yom Kippur, but that was the whole like a second form of Matan Torah. That then the Eibusha gave them Harbei Torah. Torah beprotiyas, and with all the inyone halachas, lefi shehoyu tzrichim lavare birudim de eta dar. I said it was a Cheta Ego. So we see that the Cheta Ego and the Eta Das is really inyan echor. Laseis nitno arbei Torah. And what does it mean harbei Torah? Was it a pshat harbei Torah? So the Rebbe teaches the Hainu. Prote HaTorah Shehein Mipchinas Chokhmah Stimoah. He said that means the detailed inyonim in Torah, those gevules that divide everything into specific details, and specific protim and shiurim v'ka'etz b'zeh. That is dafki from the madrega of Chokhmah Stimoah, and that's why he says there, the Alter Rebbe, that that's the koyach of the biru. It's dafki from that level. The Lula Cheta Ego. If it weren't for the Cheta Ego which brought about, and as we said, it was like awakened from the new, it was Ma'era. Once again, the whole inyan of the Cheta Tzadas is Hoya Maspik B'chinas Klolius HaTorah. It would have been enough just the generality of Torah without all the details. Lefisha Posca Zuhu Moson, they had lost over their connection with the Cheta Tzadas, which was the Zuma, the tumor of the Nachash. They lost over that, and therefore would have been enough loyhoy tzrichim levarer. There wasn't really any necessity to be mevarer and to separate out the union, because they were a mile of the mile of the Cheta Tzadas. They got free of all that tumor that the Cheta Tzadas had brought into the world through the Nachash HaKadmoni. But since they fell so heavily into the Cheta Ego, for him ribui Torah, they received the union for a tremendous amount of Torah. Hainu b'chinas protea Torah, the union of details in Torah, b'chdei levar birudim ali deise, in order they should be able to be mavare the birudim and separate off or the whole confusion that occurred mitzad those two chatorim, which were hemshech, one from the Adem. So here we see the kasha that he asked Gedori in the Maimon of the Rebbe, that you say that was netoisef lahem ribui Torah through a door, which was Mamish Ha'ipach HaKavona, the Indian from Chait HaEgo, and so that was what he said, because Torah is a tremendous thing. However, if you get Prati Torah, you get a Ribui Torah, then you're getting Ribui Torah. So that's like a reward, and so Dafki, those that sinned, got a reward. So we saw that Rashi saw the Meramis of that over there in Adonim. Rashi says that they got the whole Indian, but it was Kedela Hatrichom, to cause them a tremendous amount of self preoccupation and spirit and effort and struggle in the Indian from Limud Torah. In other words, it was stuck at a lot of Torah, but it was connected with it a tremendous amount of how do you call it, hard, not hard labor, but hard work. It was connected with it a tremendous amount of difficulty and struggle and effort, therefore, and a lot of time. Because we see that's what in this week's parasha, that's what Yaakov says to Esau. V'anies nahalo le'iti, said I'm going to go bit by bit. I see you're not ready now for for Mashiach. I thought you were ready for the Gantzagila, and I see you're not. Therefore, v'anies nahalo le'iti, I will take it. I'll have to go very gradually and very slowly. It's going to take a long time. So we see, instead of being able to just have world, it was already mavura and already perfect. There's not only the Indian from Bira, but it's a long process. And that's the Indian of the answer that ain't choyta nisko. And so there was the Rebbe Nimshach, like Rebbe Teira, I know B'chinas Proti Atera, B'dei Levare Berurim Al Yidei Zeh. Zehu Masha B'mech Hazma. There we see it takes a long time. And there the Rebbe said that we see that in the passage of that time, Nitois of Oy Torah, there came even more Torah than was given with the Luchas Torah Achreina. That we see there was even more inyanim were added. Ukemoi kol hagedolim v'shayogim or siyogim v'dikdukei seifrim she'oluim shekimat kol Talmud haTalmud. The whole Gemara molei mihalachos v'chumreis shehichmiru Chazal, that they were very, very machmer, our sages, v'isifu kama gedolim v'siyogim la Torah, that they added all sorts of fences and like hedges. They had to hedge around the different dinim of the Torah. And he said that's all in the Gemara. That's not the inyanim which were necessarily there. Mitzad the Luchas Achreinis, despite the fact that in the Luchas Achreinis was already given all those inyanim. Shekol zeh nitoisiv bezman by sheni. The Rebbe said if you're medactic historically in the whole matter, you'll see that the ikar of all these different halachas and all these different chumras that occur in the Gemara, the majority of them occur in the latter period of Bayis Sheni. In other words, not in the time of Bayis Rishon when there was a tremendous amount of Gilead, of course, not even in the Golas Bavel when they were in Bavel, but Be'ikar prior to the Bayis Sheni. Then there was all these different chumras, and there's one on the famous tiktuk at the beginning of the Hemshech we had. But again, to the fact that the Shabbat, B'mikdash hoyu teichim avoloi b'Medina, that they didn't used to blow the shofar throughout Eretz b'chol ha'makayim. Chutz mi Beis Hamikdash, that was a chumra shehichmiru Chazal b'zman Bayis Sheni. Shema yavirenu al adamis b'Reshus HaRabim, and the ganze Arichas, what that was a chumra and a hagdorah was made b'zman Bayis Sheni, like the Alter Rebbe's Mari Barif Gedela in Lekutei Torah, that Bisman Bayis Rishon they used to blow the shofar not only Beis Hamikdash but B'chol HaMedina. And he's masbid the whole thing, the difference between Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni, but the whole Rifus are in Yonim. So we see that many of these chumras, many of these halachas, which are mamish very, very real in our lives today, and we live according to these chumras. And we're medactic, all these different dinim, all of them came about as a result of Luchas Achreinis, but in the Luchas Achreinis themselves, further chumas or further developments which were made by the Chachamim Sheba'is Azman. Sure. So you might say, but that's that's wonderful, but isn't there a limit, and we see that after by a sheni there were also further chumras, and even, we find in this man of the great Rishonim, the so-called different chumras that were bought, they're like the famous Kislev the Rabbeinu Gershon, but even to this day we're very magna according to the Rabbeinu Gershon, but you can't marry two wives in the Gansha. Arichas Ha'inyan, v'chulei. Even though within Torah, you can have more than one wife if necessary, v'chulei, of the Cherem the Rabbeinu Gershon forbade it, v'chulei. We see that many inyanim developed over the many chumras. From this man of the Balei HaTosefos and other, that they were machmir, and so on and so forth. And then we find Mardach and this man of Gionim, what they were just after the completion of the Shas, the many famous takonas from the Gionim, etc. And so on and so forth. When I get to the inyan of the Giluim of these Protim Shabbat, which came later on in the Hemshech of history, even B'Nosef of the Luchas HaAchreinis. So therefore, the Shaila, isn't that being a little bit, too heavy on Yidden? The whole time as history goes on, more and more, chumras, more and more Gedorim, more and more Inyanim. And here we have the Inyan from Shemitah now, we have the Inyan from Shviyas, we have the famous Gezeres HaSfifin, things which vegetables grow their own, allowed to eat them, because, in those days people could be trusted, and maybe they said it grew on something, but they burn it. So therefore, you didn't have this whole tremendous challenge now that they're going to bring from the Arab or from Chutzlah, they can't eat the vegetables, just go on their own. A number, they have Kedusha Shviyas if they go on their own. But all sorts of chumras what our sages were machmir afilu b'dinei shviyas, which is nager l'inyanenu aksho, because we keep Shemitah, we call protei hadinim from shviyas as well. Kama she'efshar. Even though there's an opinion, Rabbi Kiva out in the Gemara, that shvichen is min ha'Torah, but he's a dash yechida, but everybody else agrees that even from Gezeres HaSfifin is a Gezeres Chachomim. V'chulava, it's a Yid Ketaina, what's this all to say, all the generations brought more chumras, more kilo, more siogim, la Torah. So Enoch Hanami, Pirkei Avos, it's written, V'yasu siog la Torah, it's written in the first parish, because that's one of the things that's said by the very early Chachomim, that you must make a fence around the Torah. But there's ad kamo. So therefore comes along the Rabbi Nan, he says a very amazing yesod, and he says that all of these inyanim that they come are from such a high madrega that we're not even able to know how high they come from. They come from such a high madrega, and that high madrega v'nageh to the connection of Yidden with the Eibishter, what we call Ava Rabba. It's from the Ava of the Eibishter to Yidden, and even from Ava Rabba, from unlimited. It's indicative of the Pnimiyos and the Atzmiyos of the Ava of the Eibishter to Yidden, and that comes stuff in this form of fencing around. And that's what the Alter brings over there in that Maimar Shchoyer Ani V'Naiva that he put at the beginning of the Omud, the page. And the Alter says that if we look at the Divrei Sefer, the majority of things what the Divrei Sefer gave us, particularly the type of things that we mean here, the Siogim and the Chumras and the Gemara and the Mishnah and so on, are full of, it's mine very shiny, or Achrim is there. And those Chumras are all in the way of mitzvahs loisaseh. They're similar to the inyan mitzvahs loisaseh, like not doing this, keeping away from that, not allowing yourself to do something, being achmir about this and so on. It's all b'derech loisaseh. There's a whole mind from the Rebbe Rashav about that. Tov Reish Pei, it's got a whole big arichas about that. But suffice it to say that the Chassidus is masbir, and it's also mashma even in Divrei Chazal, that mitzvahs lo yisaseh have got a higher level to them than even mitzvahs aseh. And the Alter Rebbe brings in the Geras HaTshuva right at the beginning. He brings us to the Meiler in mitzvahs aseh, a very big Meiler, but mitzvahs lo yisaseh have got a higher. They got a higher shoyrish and higher inyan than the mitzvahs aseh. And therefore, the Divrei Chazal are like mitzvahs lo yisaseh. They're all things don't do, and that comes from such a inyan or mila that you can't really bring it down in a way that you can do anything about it. It's so high that you can't really bring it in a way that can be affected by positive action. The only way you can get it is by bittul, in a form of not doing. You can reach such a level. So all the divrei chachomim, the divrei seifrim, but klal, all of them, excepting for certain things like Hanukkah, for example, and the Megillah, but they're very they're not so much under this rule that we're talking about here. There's all of them are in similar, or even to mitzvahs lo yisaseh. That's a sign that they've got a very high madrei. That's why mitzvahs lo yisaseh is called loi. What loi indicates that you can't, it's impossible. In other words, it's beyond us to really reach the shurish of that inyan. And the only way we can have any connection with it is by bittul hu asiyah, not doing. Therefore, it's mashma in the Gemara that not doing is easier in a way because it's higher than doing. To a certain extent. Edifa says that ever since that's the case, it follows that all of these shogim come from a very, very high level. If they're similar to the inyan of mitzvahs lo yisaseh, and they're soifrim and not sefer, and they come from a very, very high madrega. If they come from such a high madrega, then that must be indicatory of a high connection between those who do them and the Eibishter. In other words, that the Eibishter gave all of these things, davke, and mitzad, a tremendous binding of himself over to the neshamas of Yidden, and that indicates what we call this Ava Rab. So that's what we're now going to develop. V'yadua, said the Rebbe, the Hagedolim v'shogim v'dikdufkei, the specificalities of the soifrim, sher shom l'mayla miyoi, the madrega in their source is very high. Okay, maimaras al pasi ki toivim doidech miyayin. That's the second pasuk in Shir Hashirim. What that means literally, better are your expressions of love literally than wine. Better are your expressions of love than wine. The word dod in Hebrew means like a loved one. Doidayich, your expressions of love are better to me than wine. Omra Knesses, the Gemara Masechta Avodah Zarah. It's a Mamshir Gemara. Omra Knesses Yisrael, that the Yidden say, Knesses Yisrael, Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Toivim Doidecha Miyayin. Your literally signs of love are better than, and the Yidden say that to the Eibishter. Arevim Olai, the Yidden say, sweeter to me, Orevim Olai, sweeter to me. Divrei Seifrim, Yesha Miyeino Shel Toiro, that we are more, we see the greatness of your love, and therefore we're more, sweetened by the Divrei Seifrim than the wine of the Torah. So simple taich, it means that we prefer the Divrei Seifrim. We have a chayes and a koch in the Divrei Seifrim more than Torah Shebiksav. Yeino Shel Torah, meaning the Torah Shebiksav. But the Rebbe Taish is well known that Yeino Shel Torah means even Pnimis Torah. Even things which are mamish mitzad Kabbalah, then the Divrei Seifrim, the Chumras which come out in our Seifrim, in that they made noisef after Divrei Torah, their Yidden feel a sweetness in them even more than they do in the Seidas HaTorah. And so therefore he said, Pirush Yeino Shel Torah. What does it mean, the wine of Torah? Who Pnimius HaTorah? that's referring not only just to Shebiksav, but that's referring in a more specific way to the Panemius of the Torah. Okay, Razal, well, this is a Gemara, it's not a pasuk, it's a Gemara in Masechta Sanhedrin. Razal, Niknas Yayin, Yotzo, or Yetze, Seid. If wine goes in, then it will come out the secret. What the Gemara means that if you give a medicine to drink and he gets sick, you've got to be careful, he's likely to give out. He's likely to say things that, are secrets. Niknas Yayin, Yetze, Seid. So the same thing, we touch it in Pneumius, Niknas Yayin Yetzeseid. When we say Yayin Ashal Torah, then we mean such a madrega that if you touch that, you bring out all the secrets. In other words, that Yayin, as is well known, is a very powerful and it's a very praised drink, a very praiseworthy drink. And therefore, in brachas, it gets a bracha all of its own. Boyer Priha Hagof, and even Noisef on the bracha for grapes itself, what they're Boyer Priya Ha'eit, and here Boyer Priya Hagof, a special bracha only have to eat for Yayin, because Yayin is a eating which is Megala, all sorts of wondrous things, even from the grape, even though the grape itself is a beautiful fruit. But when you squeeze it out and you bring out its juice, then it becomes a very special Indian. Like the Gemara says, when they get to the brachas of wine, that it has an aliyah, that when the juice comes out of the grapes, it has an aliyah, it becomes wine, it becomes a higher thing. Normally when you squeeze juice out of something, it becomes like a liquid. It's nothing very special compared to the fruit. Over here we see it has an aliyah, and therefore wine is indicative of a dover anayla, even from the thing where it comes. Yain Shol Torah is indicative of something which comes out of the Torah, but they're maila. Well, that's a pneumis of the Torah. Nonetheless, the Gemara says that he didn't say to the Eibishter that we have more sweetness to it. We appreciate with much greater appreciation and with more sweetness the Indian of all the shiogim and the chumras of divrei seifrim more than even the seides of the Torah. Key. Why is that? Why would that be? Why would you even say that the seides of Torah? I mean, what could be higher and better than the seides of the Torah? And yet nonetheless he didn't say, no, we literally love and we have a sweetness in all these chumras. More than the sweetness of the seides of Torah. Ki kol hagedorim v'achumash b'divrei Razal, all the fences and the chumras with their iron, the word of our sages, v'dachim musa shebagadatas, and the ways of musa that there are in all the gadatas of our sages. Meaning all the homiletic and moral things that our sages teach us. Pirkei Avos, not just in our goddess, no, particularly in Pirkei Avos, that they got all the special. Musa Inyonim, Kulam Nimshuchu Mipchinas Avorabo. Here's the Nakud. He said, all of them come from the Indian of not Stam love, that the Eibshter loves Yidden, but Avorabo had the unbelievable Pneumius, Avor, the Achmius, what the Eibshter has for Yidden. Kamesha Kosov, or Hafti Eschem Oma Havaya. Yeah, that's written. As a matter of fact, it's interesting. To show you. Almost certain that's written in the Haftorah of this week's Parsha. Hafti Eschem Oma Havaya. Say that Afopi, was Ach, Esau, Yankov, there was two brothers. V'amati Hafti Eschem Oma Hashem. Hashem said he loved Dafka Eden and not Esau. That's the Havana. And the Novi says, in the name of the Eibishter, he avoids everybody else. He doesn't take into account all other peoples that he could and should have some sort of a devotion to them. And he says, V'yohavti eschem Omar Hashem, that the Eibishter said clearly that he loves the Yidden before everything else. Kemoila Moshu. So, you love us, and therefore you give us all these tremendous strict things. That's a sign that, you're trying to push us around. How do you say? You're trying to give us a very difficult time. How come that all these shogim v'chumras, they're indicative precisely of a tremendously pneumius ahava Kamoy Lamoshu Odom Machmas Ahavose Al Benoi, that a mensch, what he loves, and due to the fact Machmas Goidel Ahavose Lamoshu Odom Machmas Ahavose Al Benoi, that because he loves his son, medactic imoy yoiser, he's more medactic, because he's tremendously precise with him, lohoisi for lo shmira miula, to add upon him a very advantageous guardianship, shmira miula. That's what in the Gemara, Masechet Baba Kama, a proper guardianship. But here it means like a very high and elevated guardianship. B'gidorim v'syogim b'cholo efshori, in everything which is possible, bal kochei, in order, even against the will and the knowledge of the son, even without the son actually requesting all these things. Sheyiyeh menukem mikoil v'koil, that his son should be clean and, as you might say, protectively clean from all possible things. Mikoil v'koil. In other words, the more he loves his son, the more he's medactic on him, and that's because of his desire to protect him from all what you might call negative, even delicately negative influences. As one of the famous klal that I mentioned, medactic on his son more than what he is on another child, even though he might be concerned about other children. But even Chloe, he's very concerned about their welfare, about their, he does everything he can for alle Yiddish Kinder. Or when it comes to his own son, that he's got a very special diktuch, and a very special attention, which is Yeser, Mikol diktuch, Seifrim. I'm sorry, Mikol Efshori, Shiyeh Manuke Mikol, that he should be completely pure and clean from all negative possibilities. So we see that on the contrary, the more you love the son, and the more you've got this profound desire for his welfare, and you love him so much that you go out of your way to protect him, and therefore you make on him all sorts of chumas siogim v'gedorim. Well, this is the Hepech, the famous klal in the Yumas, in the world of the Klippos, where people say, oh yes, we love our children, therefore we let them do whatever we let them do whatever they want. That's the way to love them. Let them do what they want. We see what comes out of that approach, that they end up a few years later saying, oh, you look at what happened to my son. If I only would have paid a bit of attention. Well, they come running to other who can do something to save the matzah. But we see the falsity of that particular time. Edify. He said, the more you love your son, and the more you are in the country, you're medactic. How the famous klal nicht sugar machen, as they say, not to close down the child, not let him breathe, but the more you care, then the more you take care. That's the famous klal. Kach, similarly, in Ruchnias, or in Alakus, Machmas Geidel Ahavosi is Borach Eileinu. Due to the tremendous love, the greatness of the love of the Eibishter towards us, Machmir Umedachteik Oleinu, he is strict and he is precise. Oleinu B'diktuchei Seifrim, with all these tremendous detailed rulings of the Sofrim, as we saw the Chachomim, how they're called Sofrim. Sheheim Heimo Divrei Toirosei, they are Divrei Torah, and therefore we make sometimes brachas, and we have to do with Divrei Seifrim, with the same chumas and the same inyonim as Divrei Torah. He said, because on the contrary, they're Divrei Torah, Hamnim Shochim Me'ava Rabba. They're a higher form of Divrei Torah, B'gidorim v'syogim, l'zchuseinu, l'zakiseinu, l'ateiv lanu, l'ateiv lanu, that he should give us a schus, we should be able to have schuyot, we should be purified and benefited Latevlano, that it should be only for our emes good. Shaniya Nakim Lafana of his body, that we should be clean and pure in front of him. Velochin Alidea Gedorim Visyogim Bidikduki Savrim Davke, precisely through all those fences and those extra corners that our sages, how they're called Savrim, brought in. Nimsha Bechinas Avarabba Benefesh. Well, that causes a mensch that he can go beyond normal kesher to the Eibishter, and he can also feel Ava Rabba. Mipnei Shashelshim, Mipnei Ava Rabba Davke Kenal. Evamel is Sigora Pellet. That's well known, the famous little Sifra. I think I told you once that it's well known, like we hinted at the beginning of the class before we began reading inside the Maimah, about the Bochim used to be very medactical atzmon in the Lubavitch v'chulo, that's well known that once on Pesach, on Erev Pesach, the night of Erev Pesach, the Rebbe Rasha used to go out and draw mine shalona for the matzahs that they baked on Erev Pesach, and he used to take from those matzahs at the Leila Seder. That's well known that the bakery was run principally by the Bochers from Tonka Tmum. It's a very devout Al-Batim used to help him, or Bikar. It was run by the Bochum from Tonka Tmum. So the Rebbe used to go out by Eiserov, by the Shkia, to draw the Maim Shalona. And he used to draw it in a long sort of handle, sort of a golden clear on the end, and he drew the Maim for the matzahs. So they used to sing Keiliato, it's a minig in the Lubavitch to sing the Alter Rebbe's ning Keiliato Shas Shivas Maim Shalom. So they were and the Rebbe was put out the thing to draw the water. All of a sudden the Rebbe turned his head and he glanced at one of the bochim that was standing, and he looked very closely at this bochim, and then he looked back at what it's doing. So everything but the Rebbeim was, they didn't just do anything stam. So later, I think it was one of the very close Chassidim asked the Rebbe Rashab, why did he look? Or one of the mashpim from the yeshiva, I think it was, asked the Rebbe, why did he look at that bocha? He was called Shimshon Vitebske. He was called, was the name of the bocha. And the Rebbe said, I looked at him because at that particular moment he had Gilu Yechidush Benefesh. He had Mamish Gilu Yechidush Benefesh. He said he had Gilu Yechidush Benefesh. So you can understand what used to go on around there in those days in Lubavitch. And that was all because that was the Avarava came first one, which had being so close to the Rebbe at that particular moment, Zicha had an effect. But into the bargain, it was the whole mahalach of the bochim, that they spent so much time on the matzahs and all the hummus and all the inyanim and all the tremendous hummus that they were knowing in the Baruch with the matzahs. It's a voice haregeh. It's made the Yichidish. I tell you, it's written, brought down the Maisa. If I'm ever, that's it, guys. Gotta be medactic, predictive, safe, good inyanim, and we gotta realize that we got the Rebbe. If the Rebbe just looks at us, we can have Yechidish Benefesh. Yes, Yechidish Benefesh. And nowadays, Yechidish Benefesh is in the Achroza, and we want Moshiach. No. And Yachadim Yechi HaMelech Moshiach. Well, Mamish take you from Yad, Mamish. To read that Mamish is a Rosh Tevis, the Rebbe's name, so I'll keep it better. Amen, Kain Yehi Rotz. Alright, so tonight is the outside of the Mittler Rebbe, Tess Kislev is the outside of the Mittler Rebbe. Tomorrow night is the Yom HaGeula. It is your time, it's Yom HaGeula.
Tomorrow's the Farbrengen.
Run together.
Tomorrow is the Farbrengen?
Tomorrow will be a Farbrengen, but it's Hashem. Yeah. It's, tonight I don't want to be a Farbrengen. But tomorrow will be nice Farbrengen, but it's Hashem. It's the Mitzvah Rebbe. It's one of the great Chassidim, a really great Chassidim. When they said it was Tes Kislev, he used to just go, oh. So I said, what are you doing that for? He said, just so when I go, oh. He said, nobody knows what I mean. Nobody understands the faintest what it means. He said, that's when we look at the middle of Rebbe and we look at these Chassidus. That's what we understand.
Seemingly, the Chet HaEgel is a negative thing. So, why is it that a Jew such a thing like that seems positive?
You see, that's a very good point. You see, that's hidden. That's in the Kasha, what the Rabbi asked, Chet Niskra. So the Chet HaEgel is a Chet. Sin can't do anything. There can't be any benefit which came out of a sin. Right? That's basically what you're asking. So, I mean, the teretz is to a certain extent, the teretz in a way is part of the kasha. I mean, because Rashi says that lahat tricho. Yes, Rashi said over there, to give him a lot of teretz, they have to struggle with all the unioning of the teretz. It's a tremendously hard job, and as we see, it took a lot of time and struggle and effort, sweat and toil in the end. So that's the way that we answer that it wasn't, quite to Nishkar. Sokosov, there still remains a trace of the kasha, because that's what the Rebbe said. Afterwards, all Torah. So what could be better? So we have to work hard. We worked hard. We struggled hard. Obviously, all the Avis's, it's all the Avis's Torah. But that's what we find that there's certain inyonim. The Dafki, the Avis wanted that from the negative should come out ultimately the positive, and that's what we find that the Alter brings down in a Maimon to Torah. I think it's in the Jerusalem from Pesach, back to the Sarat, the Alter Rebbe. It's a famous, what do you call it? Not proverb, what do you call it? When you say it tricky, you think people got to understand what it is. A chido.
A riddle?
Huh?
A riddle?
A riddle, yeah. A riddle. Yeah, the famous riddle of Shimshon, Hagibor. He said that Gibor Yetzer Hamosa, lo Gibor. Oz Ayin Zayin, Oz Yetzer Masok. From the brazen will come out the sweet. So he said that in reference to the Plishtim, that he remember he killed the lion or something. He took the honey out of the lion. Until he got free of the fish. I forgot exactly the story. And then there was another mice with the one of the donkey. He smelled a lot of the fish tail. But so he said after that, "Mia oz yetzer masok." That was a riddle. That he called a chido. So the Alter Rebbe says, "Dafki from the oz, from the gvulis, from that comes out the emphasis sweetness." That's the whole, we don't understand sometimes. That precisely through the Yeridas come the Aliyah. That's what the Gemara's Marana says. That Yerida Tzedach Aliyah. Sometimes you go down, but really you're really going upwards. You may go down, but your real purpose is to go upwards.
Like goals.
Yeah. But the Rebbe said that the goddess is enough of it. That's the union of that's the principle behind it. Therefore, the Gemara says about that Neuro Alilo Al Bnei Adam. It's like a tremendously frightening plot that the Eivshter has against man, but it really means he's ultimate good. It's like a plot, like a trick that the reader that he brings to the Aliyah. And that's what the Alter Rebbe said. That's the union of the Chiddush Shimshon. So there you are. But the Rebbe said that we've already had the Rebbe said it's been enough. All these inyanim, it's already been all the Yeridis and all the Birulim and all the inyanim, all that could have come out of that's already been. Now we're just going straight into Aliyah's after Aliyah. Yes. Good. Okay.